Now, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker will be John Liu.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is a pleasure to be part of this very special induction ceremony to a very prestigious organization, and in fact, I had the honor of being part of this a number of years ago. It's good to be back. This is the Harlem Children's Society, is an organization that really takes a leading role in so many things that are happening in the city of New York. And, you know, the people, all of the students who are being inducted today have been outstanding so far, and take this induction as, number one, a sign of congratulations, but also a sign of encouragement to do far more, because you still have a huge amount of potential. Now let me tell you about the potential. This is a city where it's always meant that if you work hard, you dream big, and then you work a little harder, you can achieve great success. And it's a city that allows someone like me to be a New York City Comptroller. You have any idea what a comptroller is? You can say no. Essentially, the Chief Financial Officer. I was elected Comptroller 4 years ago. And as Chief Financial Officer, I basically have a number of responsibilities. I guess the foremost of which is I sign the checks. I sign all the checks. $70 billion worth of checks every single year. It's an incredible privilege to be able to serve the people of this city in this capacity and in this position. And I gotta say something, you know, when I was running for this position 4 years ago, the pundits, the so-called experts, said that someone like me had very little chance of winning the election. And I would ask, well, why don't you think I have any chance? And the sentiment would be that, well, you know, no one like you has ever won a citywide elected office before here in New York. And I looked at pundits straight in the eyes and I said, well, you know what? I think we can do it. I think we've got a strong team. We've got a great strategy. We're going to win this election. And sure enough, we beat the pundits and we proved them wrong. And I became Comptroller of this great city, a city that really has meant so much to people, whether you've been here in your families for generations or you're immigrants like myself. I'm proud to be an immigrant. I've lived in New York City almost my whole life, but I was born in Taiwan. Or as they say, if you look at my neck here, it says made in Taiwan. But I had a chance to come here and really pursue the American dream. And growing up as an immigrant, I never imagined that I would ever run for office, let alone actually get elected. I went to school, did my studies, I went on to college. I had no politics or government background whatsoever. I went to the Bronx High School of Science, and in college I majored in mathematical physics. And in fact, the sciences and all of your focus and interest in the sciences is something that's very appealing to me. Because there are so many things that science actually is applicable to. In real life, there are lots of scientific phenomena that occur. Even in politics, I often, I don't know if somebody's trying to call in, but even in politics, I often apply some of the most common principles in physics. For example, I think somebody's possibly trying to call in from India or something like that. In any event, for example, there's how many people have an interest in physics? All right, it's a fair number. I often apply the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which is, has anybody ever heard of that? Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. The more you try to measure something, the more it is that you change the nature of what it is that you're trying to measure. You can see that from, like, for example, the test scores in our public schools, where the more emphasis you put on the test scores, the more it is that you actually change the result of what you're trying to test. At the end of the day, when there's too much emphasis on the test scores, then it becomes a matter not of gauging education, but actually becomes a measure of how well people are getting ready for the tests. And that's, in fact, we have seen some empirical evidence in the divergence between the state test results and the federal test results. Another example of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, CompStat, where 20 years ago the police department installed a system of accountability where precinct commanders would know exactly what's happening, and they would try to report lower and lower and lower numbers to depict a reduction in crime all throughout the city. And yet, in recent years, there have been more questions called into account with regard to the actual results of CompStat. That so much pressure being brought on the precinct commanders has resulted in some results that, quite honestly, were not necessarily predicted. For example, so there are physical theories that abound and are applicable to real life, even in politics. Another one of my favorites, the basic theories of statistical thermodynamics, where you have hot and cold bodies come in contact with each other and they reach equilibrium at a certain point. I find that that's true when it comes to opinions. And when people have varying different opinions, if you bring them together and they're able to interact with each other, and the people particles bounce off each other one after another, there at some point tends to be some agreement on some of these issues. And so I find it amazing that physical sciences can actually be applied to something like politics, which is really as real life as you can get. And so I'm here just to say congratulations to all the inductees. Dr. Sat has been a great leader in this city, and for 13 years now, he's been dedicated to this cause. And I do thank him for the invitation today. Thank you very much, Dr. Sat. Let's give him a round of applause. And today is a very special event because a number of people have been before you today talking about their campaign for mayor. I am also a Democrat running for mayor of New York City, and this is an election that's very similar to what I went through 4 years ago. 2013 now, of course, when the pundits and the so-called political experts give me low odds, just like they did in 2009, saying that someone like me can't win an election, or certainly not the mayoral election for New York City. Well, just as we proved the pundits and the so-called experts wrong 4 years ago, I'm going to prove them wrong again this year, because we have a lot of changes to make, and there's a lot at stake in this year's elections. And as we progress over the next 10 weeks, the election will be over in about 10 weeks and 6 hours at 9 p.m. on September 10th. I try to fight Asian American stereotypes my whole life, but I'm pretty good with the numbers, okay? In any event, it's going to be an exciting summertime as you continue in your summer studies and your internships. Keep an eye on what's happening on the political scene, because at the end of the day, politics is important. Whoever gets elected mayor will have an impact on your lives here in New York City and possibly beyond. So, because whatever happens in New York gets noticed far beyond the borders of our 5 boroughs. So, enjoy your internships, enjoy the rest of the summer, keep an eye on the elections. Don't forget to vote on September 10th, and I will see you out there on TV, on the campaign trail, and elsewhere. And once again, thank you, Dr. Sat and the Harlem Children's Association.